Support for Starting Small comes from Humanscale, the leading designer and manufacturer of high-performance ergonomic products that help create a healthier work life. All of the products from chairs to standing desk and more are comfortable, easy to use, and sustainable, and great for either the office or the work-from-home environment. With an increase in shifting workplaces, comfort can be especially hard to find. As I run the podcast, I'm in front of my desk for hours a day, from scheduling, researching, interviewing, and more. Humanscale allows me to remain productive without the consequence of body stress to follow. Make sure to check out Humanscale at humanscale.com and use code StartingSmall at checkout to save 20% off your purchase. That's code StartingSmall at humanscale.com, and enjoy the episode. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small, a podcast about brand development, entrepreneurship, and innovation in the modern world. In this episode, I'm joined by Raymond Lei, founder of Lumina, the world's first studio-quality 4K webcam powered by AI. Raymond is certainly not new to entrepreneurship. He founded his first company, ooShirts, out of high school, which had massive success through his college years, which led him to dropping out early. Listen as we talk about Raymond's full journey from his first company, ooShirts, to Scalable, and to now Lumina. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Raymond Lei of Scalable and Lumina. Raymond, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I'd like to start out with your upbringing. So where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
So I was born in China, and I moved to the Bay Area when I was 3 years old. And my childhood was it was in the heart of Silicon Valley. So I was surrounded by just all this progress happening in the technology world. A lot of the dot-com boom happened when I was young. I saw that, and I think that probably affected me in an interesting way. And my parents are both software engineers, and so I kind of grew up in this world of technology. And I think that to some extent that gave me this feeling that change is always happening, and it's a good thing.
For sure. For yourself, would you say growing up you had an entrepreneurship mindset, say selling products or lemonade stands at a young age?
It was really odd. I mean, I think I wasn't particularly entrepreneurial until I was probably 15 or 16 years old. Prior to that, I was, I'd say, just a completely normal kid, just going to school. I did, went to class normally, and something happened in early high school, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I just suddenly felt like I could build stuff, and it wouldn't necessarily be successful, but I just felt like this is something that was interesting that I wanted to do.
Yeah. I saw that in your high school years. You started this company called ooShirts, and it was based off a bad experience with ordering t-shirts for your tennis club. What exactly was that bad experience?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I was a tennis player. I played tennis since I was in my early teens, and so in high school I started this club called it's basically just a tennis club at my high school. And I remember I was trying to order. I started the club, so it didn't exist until that, and I remember trying to order t-shirts for this club off a very small budget. And I had this idea in my mind that t-shirts should cost like $5. They should be very cheap. And I don't know where I got that idea from, but that was deeply embedded in my mind. And when I got quotes for t-shirts for a club, everything did not match that number in my mind. And so and then we couldn't afford it, for one, but just on a kind of a deeper level, I just felt compelled to research why it was more expensive than what I thought it ought to be. And I learned a lot about the industry, and I think I kind of just inadvertently found this big opportunity to build a business.
So what did you end up doing for that ordering process? Did you end up ordering through that expensive chain, or did you end up finding some outsourcing? What did you do for the tennis club?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was, uh, I I looked around for many different options, both online and offline options. So I looked everywhere for the best price, and I couldn't find it. And what I ended up doing was actually going through the supplier. I went on Alibaba, and I found the supplier in
Mm,
China that was willing to print and ship these t-shirts over. And the price turned out to be, I think, less than $5, which was like three or $4.
mm,
Um, but that's actually how the business started. It was I found the supplier, and then I started working with other clubs at my high school and said, hey, I have this great source for t-shirts. The quality is good. It's the same t-shirts you'd get elsewhere, except it's cheaper.
yeah.
And it started. That's kind of how things started at the very beginning.
So during your high school years and doing this, did ooShirts actually launch as a business, or was this following high school into your college years?
Well, it's always a blurred line at the beginning. I
Yeah.
think, right? Like, it was kind of me acting as a sort of broker for these t-shirts.
Yeah.
And I mean, to some extent, I mean, I think some people would call that a business. And I think, by definition, it probably was one.
Yeah.
But I viewed it as just like a side project that I took on, and I could help other people and make a little bit of money on it. And it wasn't until later that, so at some point in this process, I started to work on building a website. I felt like the process of I was taking a lot of orders by hand myself, and like doing a lot of just essentially this one-on-one like direct sales.
Mhm.
And I thought that building a website and trying to attract people to the website would actually be a better way to grow that business. And so I learned to code. I learned PHP and MySQL, which are it's like the most popular languages at the time.
Mhm.
And I built something. I put something up there. And what was really interesting though was that after launching the website, there were some U.S. based printers that contacted me
Mm.
and actually said, hey, maybe we could help you with order fulfillment. We could do this printing out of the U.S.
Mhm.
And the really surprising thing was that we were able to set up this partnership, a few partnerships with these local printers, in which the cost of printing and fulfilling out of the U.S. was actually comparable to the cost of fulfilling out of China,
Wow.
provided that we make the process more efficient for these local print shops.
Wow. Interesting. I saw you went on to study at University of California, Berkeley in 2009 for a short period. What did you end up studying there in this process?
I was a business major.
Okay.
I think I chose business because I thought it'd be a easy major that would help like give me time to work on stuff on the side.
Yeah,
And it was relevant by title as well. So that's
for sure.
a small plus. Yeah.
So at this
Awesome.
at this time, what were you doing with the ooShirts, and what was the growth looking like at this time period?
Yeah. So ooShirts at the time. So when I was 19, I think the revenues were in the low six figures. I think it was like $100,000 or $200,000 annually.
Mhm.
And then something. So in my sophomore year, something happened in which I basically figured out some breakthrough to drive more traffic profitably to our site, and the numbers started increasing quickly, and that's when I decided to drop out of school.
Why do you think that might have happened? Do you think demand in that time period specifically that led? Because that is around, I guess, the recession, 2008. What do you think the trend was there?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of factors. I mean, the recession definitely was probably a factor because we kind of were the low cost provider for these t-shirts.
Yeah.
But it was also was also just I was just most of my time was spent just optimizing the website, and it just had reached a point in which the website became really good, and like right now, if you go on the website, and by the way, the website it hasn't changed for the past like 10 years or so, or like maybe 7 or 8 years or so. So it looks old, but you'll see a giant green button that says get started.
Yeah.
And I think what I found was that by making that button larger, that was able to drive up our conversion rates, which made our advertising more efficient, which let us put more money on advertising, and kind of get that. I think we were able to figure out that whole advertising equation.
Awesome. And then you ended up dropping out midway through. What ultimately led you to this decision? Was it strictly the growth of ooShirts at the time?
For the most part, yeah. I had a conversation with my parents, and so at the time, I remember I always had this idea that I might be, the type of kid who would drop out, and I never acted on it. I never acted on it, but it was always just thought in the back of my mind. But the interesting thing was my parents had a conversation with me, and my mom noticed that I was like, all I would talk about wasn't school or like, meeting kids on campus, other kids on campus or anything, but it was the company.
Yeah.
And she actually recommended to me that, hey, like this seems like what you're most excited about, and you should put school on pause.
Oh,
you
wow.
you should go and do this. And yeah, I mean, I've always had it in the back of my mind, but it didn't really register until she directly brought it up to me.
Did your father have the similar reaction as well?
Yeah, I think he was supportive. Yeah, my mom was definitely leading that conversation though.
Awesome. Well, with exponential growth with Scalable, what were your main forms of marketing at this time?
Yeah, so it's you mean for the early days of ooShirts, or kind of
Moving into Scalable and the new products and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you caught this, and this isn't really clear online or anything, but it was actually ooShirts that evolved into becoming Scalable.
Got
It's
it.
actually the same kind of company, and I mean the corporate entity itself is the same.
Got it.
Yeah, but so it's kind of a multi-step evolution. I'll try to simplify it though. So with with the ooShirts, so at some point, so about 2 years after dropping out of school, we started to we wanted to make our service more of a sort of technology product. And so rather than just letting people order through our design wizard on our website, we said, okay, let's build an API so that developers can integrate with us and take advantage of our low prices and our good fulfillment capabilities and build their own t-shirt businesses. And so we did that, and that's where the idea for Scalable Press came out. And so Scalable Press right now, I mean, you could go on now. This is more of an active business for us. It's like an API for ordering printed products. But it through that process, what we discovered was that there's a ton of interest out there from entrepreneurs, both in the U.S. and internationally, who are just really hungry and really trying to figure out how to start their own businesses online.
Yeah.
And we kind of evolved over the next few years from becoming a company that's kind of centered around printing and helping people fulfill their printing orders, into becoming more of a e-commerce enablement company, where we're helping people start e-commerce stores and to succeed in e-commerce. And the transformation seems, from the outside, it seems like they're barely connected, but it was through printing that we discovered, the kind of entrepreneurs came to us entrepreneurs who wanted to sell print products came to us, and then it was through that we discovered, hey, there's a bigger opportunity, and one that I think makes more sense for our company within just supporting global entrepreneurship.
Got it. And for the listeners out there, Scalable is basically a sum of multiple products and platforms, correct? Such as Chip, which is your all-in-one e-commerce platform, and then you also have printing in there.
That's right. I mean, overall, I'd classify ourselves as an e-commerce enablement company. So if you're an entrepreneur, right now the biggest hurdle so I guess overall it's very hard to get into entrepreneurship right now. It's you have to not only figure out your business model and your marketing, but you also have to just have access to basic things like reliable payment processing. You have to have access to reliable fulfillment partners and to advertising accounts. And we basically the different kind of parts of our company provide access to these services.
Got it. Overall, what would you say separates the Scalable platform and the products within from your competitors?
Yeah, we're sort of in a unique spot in that we play a sort of supporting role to the existing kind of e-commerce stacks that entrepreneurs use. So I would say that our main the main company you'd contrast us with is probably Shopify.
Yeah.
And we're not a direct competitor per se. We're more, I'd say, complementary. But you could view Shopify as kind of fundamentally providing a technology platform and a checkout system for entrepreneurs, whereas we provide the fulfillment service, the advertising advertising access, and payment processing for merchants that have trouble getting those.
Having amazing growth at this time and then moving into 2021, we're getting into the topic of Lumina.
Sure.
What led you to venture off? Well, not venture off, because you're still continuing with the printing and press and e-commerce into creating a webcam.
Yeah. So this sort of happened late last year when so at Scalable we had last year we had about 300 employees, and during COVID everyone moved over to remote, right? And it was a scary change, like it was for many people, because it was just such a different way of doing things. But I found personally that remote is really, really enjoyable. It's even though there's so many imperfections right now, it seems like remote is the future, and for that sure. 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be the default way of doing work. But I identified problems with it, right? Like it's when you get on a call with someone, most people don't look good and don't sound good. and that that's not just like an aesthetic thing where people aren't as don't look as good, but it's also a quality of communication thing where it just people won't be as effective in presenting themselves and presenting the message that they want to, whatever message they want to convey. And I found that people that have really great setups, like really great microphones and really great cameras, like some people who would have invest thousands of dollars in DSLR setups. Yeah. These people would have they would look amazing first, but they would also people would just listen to them more, and they were more effective on video. And so at Scalable, one of the things I wanted to do was, hey, let's try to get everyone to look like this. Then everyone would be so much more effective, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is there are no solutions on the market right now. The best webcam on the market, the most popular webcam on the market is called the Logitech C920. And this is a 10-year-old webcam.
Wow. 1080 too, correct?
It's 1080p. Yeah, it was launched at the same time as I think it was the iPhone 4 or iPhone 5.
Wow.
And it's just an old product, and there's been no innovation. There's lots of innovation on the software side. There are a lot of cool tools coming out, right? And everything we use today is all like built in the past like few years.
Yeah.
But on the hardware side, it's behind. There's nothing good out there, and so you're kind of stuck between, okay, do I want to spend $100 and get this 10-year-old product, or do I want to spend $2,000 and get something that's good? And I think people really struggle with that choice.
Overall, yeah, looking at those past features, what exactly were you trying to solve with creating this first product? Of course, both quality-wise, but say the physical product.
Yeah, I mean, we want to make a webcam that you could plug and play and immediately get something that feels like a DSLR, something close to that quality level. And maybe it's not 100% there, but it should be like 90% there. And we want the camera itself to just not only make you look good, but also be something that you're excited to get your hands on. Mm-hmm. It's like when you buy a new iPhone, it's you're looking forward to it, and when you unbox it, it's like you peel off that sticker, and it feels amazing. Yeah. And I don't think anyone has ever said that about a webcam.
Yeah.
And so we want to build something that kind of just doesn't just look good and provides you a lot of utility on video quality, but also just feels good to own. Mm.
So from the consumer standpoint, after unboxing, how easy is the setup process for just an average consumer, someone who doesn't use a DSLR setup, but just looking for an upgrade in their webcam?
Oh, it's very easy. Yeah. I mean, you basically, you plug it in, and then there's this one-step process in which, so within our box, like within our, as part of our product, we have this color card, and you basically show that you put that color card in front of the camera, and it calibrates and just makes it so you look perfect in whatever scene you're in. Mm. And so one of the innovations that we have is that the way that cameras are calibrated normally is that there's really extensive calibration process that happens within this very controlled lab. Mm-hmm. And what we've basically done is made it so that calibration process can take place at your home using just a very simple color card. So you basically you plug in the camera, you put that card in front of the camera, and it looks at it'll sense the lighting conditions, it'll sense the brightness level, and it'll give you that perfect picture just right from the start.
Wow. So without having any demographic stats currently, who would you say is the perfect fit for this camera, and what do you think your demographics might look like within a year?
Yeah, I'd say there's, so I'll start with the year. I'd say it's people who work from home or do some type of business from home. So it could be, streamers, it could be vloggers, mm-hmm. But I'd say mostly it'll be just professionals who are working from home. And this includes people who are working, have hybrid setups, which I think are going to be really common in the future. Mm. Right now, I would say a lot of the early technology adopters. This is a brand new product, right? Yeah. And especially in the first month or two, there's going to be the product isn't going to be perfect, And
Yeah.
so I'd say that at the very beginning, definitely early tech adopters who kind of get that and see the bigger picture.
Hmm. So being one of the first 4K cameras at launch, what do you project might happen within the next year or so? Do you think some backlash or other competitors might hop on board to try to compete? Because honestly, once the 4K comes out, you can't really compete with a 1080p.
Yeah, I think that's right. Well, right now there's a few 4K options. There's the Brio, and there's some random kind of Chinese brands on Amazon that are trying to sell this spec.
Mm.
Um, I think our differentiator is really the overall experience, and it's the post processing that happens after the camera chip itself takes in your video.
Mm.
So if you and it's too bad we're not on video together right now, but
Yeah.
you would see this like really natural blur effect behind me
Mm.
that you normally only see with a DSLR, and it kind of senses the depth of the objects behind you and gives you like a really natural kind of it feels like there's real depth to it as opposed to just being a computer generated blur.
Mm.
And the camera itself, it detects where you are and it detects objects in your background. So I think a lot of people when they jump onto video calls, they have trouble with pets or people or kids running in the background. And what this feature would do is basically it'll stay focused on you, and it'll sort of not it'll direct itself away from objects or things happening in the background.
Wow. So once it's planted, then the camera itself, it does not follow the person, does it? It stays in place, correct?
Yeah, it doesn't physically follow it, but it does. It has a wide field of view,
Got it.
and it basically can shift its frame within its field of view.
Got it. So neat. So once someone unboxes the camera, then there's a stand that comes with the box, and does that mount directly onto the computer screen, or where would you recommend the camera physically be?
Yeah, I'd recommend putting it just right above your computer screen or right above your laptop screen,
Mm-hmm.
just like you put any other webcam.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you set it up pretty much just like any other webcam, except for that one, the color calibration card that you use to make the colors really accurate.
Mm.
And after that, it's pretty much good to go. There will be there's a little tray kind of this like settings section where you could mess with settings if you want to get into it yourself. Like, so you could tweak the blur level or the like how the size of the frame or the brightness or saturation or some other settings. But for the most part, I mean, I think for most users, it'll just look good, and you don't need to do anything. It's good to go.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to see this camera in use, and once it's on Kickstarter, to the listeners out there, make sure to check out Get Lumina. And I like to conclude each episode with this question. If you could share
Sure.
one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, what would that be? Maybe something you've learned or regret? Just anything.
Yeah, I think my overall piece of advice is to just get started. I think I find a lot of people, at least the people I've talked to, spend, I think, on average, too much time contemplating the idea and thinking about bigger picture concepts, like thinking about strategy and thinking too much about competition. And I think all that's important. That's definitely just in an absolute sense, those are important. But I think the most important thing that you should do is just to get started. And rather than thinking about, okay, what does the first $1 million look like? Just think about how do you get the first one order? How do you get the first 10 customers to just be interested and listen to what they say and let that guide you? But just making that first step is probably the most important and I think the most exciting part.
For sure. Well, Raymond, thank you so much for joining me. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out Lumina at getlumina.com.
Perfect. Thanks, Cameron.
Hey, thank you for listening to this episode of Starting Small. If you would, leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Also, follow Starting Small Pod on social platforms to keep up to date on future guests.